Welcome to Reading the Bible with Pastor. Today we're on John chapter 18, starting at verse 28. Then they led Jesus from the house of Caiaphas to the governor's headquarters. It was early morning. They themselves did not enter the governor's headquarters so that they would not be defiled, but could eat the Passover. That is, they didn't want to enter a Gentile's house and therefore become unclean. If doing so, they would not have been able to eat the Passover meal. So Pilate went outside to them and said, "What accusation do you bring against this man?" They answered him, "If this man were not doing evil, we would not have delivered him over to you." Pilate said to them, "Take him yourself, and judge him by your own law." The Jews said to him, "It is not lawful for us to put anyone to death." This was to fulfill the word that Jesus had spoken to show by what kind of death he was going to die. At this time, it was not lawful for the Jews to put anyone to death because of the Roman governance over them at that time. It was only Rome who could sentence someone to death. So that's why they went to Pilate. We'll continue with verse 33. So Pilate entered his headquarters again and called Jesus and said to him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you say this of your own accord, or did others say it to you about me?" Pilate answered, "Am I a Jew? Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would have been fighting, that I might not be delivered over to the Jews. But my kingdom is not from the world." Jesus is making a distinction about the political world and the kingship over that, and the religious world, in that he is the king of all creation. If this was the kingdom that he was trying to rule over, this political world, he could overrule it. But because he is trying to be the king over all creation, and that the king over those who believe in him, he is not to be the ruler of this world as a political figure. Then Pilate said to him, So you are a king?" Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. For this purpose I was born, and for this purpose I have come into the world, to bear witness to the truth. That is, that he is the salvation of the world, the Son of God. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice, as we read earlier that the sheep hear his voice and follow him." Pilate said to him, "What is truth?" Meaning here that the conversation is over. After he had said this, he went back outside to the Jews and told them, "I find no guilt in him." Oddly enough, a Gentile sees that there is no sin in Jesus, and it isn't the Jews, his own people, who see him as the coming Messiah and the perfect divine Son of God. "But you have a custom that I should release one man for you at the Passover. So do you want me to release to you the King of the Jews?" They cried out again, "Not this man, but Barabbas." Now Barabbas was a robber. Then Pilate took Jesus and flogged him, and the soldiers twisted together a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and arrayed him in a purple robe. They came up to him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" and struck him with their hands. Pilate went out again and said to them, "See, I am bringing him out to you, that you may know that I find no guilt in him." So Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. Pilate said to them, "Behold the man." When the chief priests and the officers saw him, they cried out, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and crucify him, for I find no guilt in him." Again, Pilate says that there is no guilt, there is no sin in this man, and it is on their own hands that he will be crucified. The Jews answered him, "We have a law, and according to that law, he ought to die because he has made himself the Son of God. That is, he should die because of blasphemy." When Pilate heard this statement, he was even more afraid. He entered into his house headquarters again and said to Jesus, "Where are you from?" But Jesus gave him no answer. Oddly enough, this question is a little bit more than just where is he born from, but Christ is from the Father, from heaven. So Pilate said to him, "You will not speak to me? Do you know that I have authority to release you and authority to crucify you?" Jesus answered him, "You would have no authority over me at all unless it has been given to you from above. Therefore, he who delivered me over to you has the greater sin." From then on, Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews cried out, "If you release this man, you are not Caesar's friend. Everyone who makes himself a king opposes Caesar." This is putting pressure on Pilate because an insurrection would be dealt with speedily by Rome and would not be looked upon favorably by Caesar upon Pilate for not keeping peace in the region. So when Pilate heard these words, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judgment seat at a place called the Stone Pavement, in Aramaic, Gabbatha. Now it was the day of the preparation of the Passover. It was about the 6th hour. He said to the Jews, "Behold your king." They cried out, "Away with him! Away with him! Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "Shall I crucify your king?" The chief priests answered, "We have no king but Caesar." So he delivered him over to them to be crucified. We'll pick up next time with John chapter 19 and verse 16b.